Will you pray with me? Holy God, as we enter the season of waiting, we come into this space with hearts that yearn for your light. We gather today not only to remember the promise of Christ coming so long ago, but to awaken the hope that still rises among each one of us. A hope that flickers like a candle in the dark, a steady and sure light. And so, God, we ask that you breathe your Spirit upon us now and quiet the noise within and around us so that your work may take root. And, oh God, open our eyes to the hope that you plant in the extraordinary places. May our hearts receive it. Be with us, speak through me, and speak to all of us. Amen. So I want to start today in a place where nearly all of us have spent probably quite a bit of time in our lifetime, whether we chose to or not. The waiting room. Whether it be the waiting room of the doctor's office or the waiting of a hospital room, maybe it was at the DMV. I know we've all spent a lot of time there. Or if, at the auto repair shop. We've waited at the airport. A lot of times what happens is you walk in, you sign in, you take a number at the DMV, you take a number and you just find a chair. Hopefully there's a chair for you, and you just sit and you wait, and you wait. And you don't know how long it's going to be until your number's called or until your flight is boarding or whatever it is. But you can't make it go faster. I mean, you can't will it to be faster. You just have to wait. And I feel certain that there are many of us around here that are better at waiting than others. I know there are some folks that they'll pack a lunch. Just kidding. But, I mean, they'll take their crossword puzzles, they'll take books, they'll take their, AirPods to listen to music, or maybe they'll just start chatting with everybody in the room and become friends with everyone that is there. And I know that there are many of us that fidget. We fidget and we check our watches, and we constantly are asking the gate agent or the receptionist, is it time yet? How much longer do we have? And then we start pacing back and forth because you know what? Time is of the essence to us. And you're always wondering how much longer it's going to be. Because I think for some of us, waiting makes us feel powerless. Waiting reminds us that you're not in control. Waiting tells us that you can't fix things in a moment's notice to adapt to how you want it to be. And yet, this is where Advent begins. It doesn't begin in the warm glow of candlelight, although lighting the candle of hope that is still lit, I think, over there, is part of our Advent tradition. Advent also doesn't begin in the manger, and it certainly doesn't begin with us singing joy to the world. As Pastor Jason said, Advent begins in the dark. It begins in the waiting room. It begins with a longing in silence and with the cry of God's people who are wondering, where is God? In Isaiah 64, we find a prophet speaking for a people who have come home, only to find that home doesn't really feel like home anymore. The exile is technically over for them, and the journey that they were on is complete. But the waiting, well, it continues because restoration has not happened. You see, Jerusalem is still in ruins. The temple is no longer standing, and their confidence in the future, well, it has been shaken to its core. And so the people do what all people of God do in their time of stress, and they cry out, "Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down." Friends, this is not a quiet, polite prayer. It's one of desperation. It's the prayer of people sitting in ashes, looking at all of the wreckage around them and asking, "God, where are you? Don't you see what is happening down here?" I imagine you know that prayer, don't you? You pray it in the hospital room. You pray it after betrayal. You pray it when the war does not end. Tear open the heavens and come down. Advent also starts here. One of my favorite reflections on Advent comes from Bishop Will Willimon. He writes that Advent is not about our yearning for God. Advent is about God yearning for us. I just want you to hold on to that for a moment. Just sit with it and think about what it means for you. I think so often we tend to picture Advent as our time of waiting for God to do something, for God to show up and to fix us and to heal us and to make things all better. But Willimon, he flips it. He flips it for us, and he says, maybe the deeper mystery of Advent is something like this: that God is waiting for us. God is waiting for us to be ready to receive grace. God is waiting for us to turn around. God is waiting for us to stop chasing lesser hopes and come back home. I mean, yes, Willimon says that Advent does begin in the dark. But thanks be to God, it doesn't stay there. Because it ends with a God who refuses to leave us alone. And so as much as we want to embrace the idea of Advent being a cozy nostalgia, it's not. And it's certainly not about pretending that the world that we live in is okay. What the season does invite us to is to simply stand in the dark, trusting that God is not only near, but that God is on the move. And that brings us to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 13. I'm not going to read it to you right now, but I really do want to encourage all of you to turn to this scripture and read it, especially if you have time today or sometime this week. It is an apocalyptic text, and I'm certain that it is not anyone's favorite text to read, especially during this time of year. Because, there are no shepherds, there are no bright, beautiful stars, and there are no comforting angels that are coming down singing. Instead, it's Jesus talking about the sun going dark and the moon losing its light and the stars falling from the sky and the heavens shaking. And to me, it sounds more like Revelation than it does Rudolph. But right in the middle of all this doomsday, Jesus says something that each one of us can benefit from hearing. Keep alert. Stay awake. Keep alert. Stay awake. You see, Jesus is not trying to scare us, and he is certainly not encouraging us to predict the day of his return or decode any symbols. What he is telling us is to live ready. To live ready, to live like hope is on the way, to live like the Son of Man could just show up in your neighborhood, to live like justice and mercy are not far off, but are already near. You see, Jesus doesn't ask us to wait passively. Instead, he invites us to wait faithfully. He's saying, don't fall asleep, spiritually, friends. Don't live distracted by the things that really don't matter in this life. And don't grow numb. Don't grow numb to the life that you have been given. Instead, keep praying. Keep watch. Love always. Love freely. But most importantly, be ready. And this is where the wisdom of Howard Thurman helps deepen our understanding. For those of you that don't know, Thurman was a theologian and a pastor who understood waiting from the underside of history. He lived in the shadow of injustices, and yet he wrote these beautiful and unforgettable words. Hope is the memory of the future. Hope is the memory of the future. What a strange and beautiful phrase. Hope, he said, is not fantasy. It's not denial. It's remembering forward. It's carrying the truth of who God is. The truth of who God is into a world that does not yet reflect it. Thurman believed that waiting is a form of resistance, that to wait on God is not weakness, it's strength. It's saying, I will not bow to despair. I will not accept this world as it is, and I will live in expectation of something far better. In Advent, waiting is not idle time. It is faithful defiance. It's active trust. I have a friend whose husband is stationed overseas, and he's on an unaccompanied tour, and so they remain here in the United States. And their youngest son, since their father left, what he does is he sits at the front window of their home every afternoon. Same spot, same time, just like clockwork, just to watch and look out the window at the road. After several days of noticing this, it became a routine. My friend noticed that it was like, okay, he's got something going on here. And so she decided that she was going to ask him, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? And he said, when Dad comes home, I want to be the first one to see him. You see, that's also what Advent looks like. Hope is the child at the window, not sure when, but sure enough that he is coming. You see, hope isn't passive. It's leaning forward. It's living with readiness. It's being the first one to see what so many others miss. We've all seen those reunions when soldiers return home, whether it's from deployment or from basic training or wherever it is that they are coming home from. You've seen the videos. I mean, you just can't be on social media without seeing them. And the signs at the airport that you see if you're ever traveling, the surprises that knock on the door and the folks open the door and there their soldier is. Or maybe they're at a restaurant and they're sitting at a table and their loved one comes and sits down next to them. You see, each of these moments are filled with tears, holy tears, sacred tears, and tremendous energy, which every person in those videos embrace. You see, nobody drifts into that moment by accident, ever. Each of those moments are the result of watchfulness and preparation and longing, but more importantly, love. And I think that's what what Jesus is really saying in Mark 13 is live like the reunion is always about to happen. John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist movement, never separated the season of waiting from the season of living. For him, holy waiting was always, always tied to holy action. Waiting to Wesley was not passive either. Waiting did not mean just simply folding our hands, putting our head down, or looking up and staring at the sky. Waiting was a posture of readiness, of a life leaned forward into God. He called it faith working by love. And Wesley believed that grace is not something that we only feel, it is something that we practice. Not only in our quiet moments of prayer, but in our loud moments of life as well. And not just in our spiritual yearning for God, but in our practical kindness toward one another, acting like God really does matter in our lives. Grace is not just in lighting the candle, but it is in being the light. You see, to wait on God for Wesley meant we did something with our time. That we kept showing up even when it was really hard. And that we keep loving when it would be easier to not. Or we keep caring even when the answers are slow and the world around us just seems unchanged. You see, to wait on God is to keep visiting the sick even when healing is slow, and to keep feeding the hungry even when there are more mouths than loaves, and to tend to the soul, our own as well as others, by keeping a flame alive even when the nights are long. Waiting for Wesley was the work of presence. And that's why he spoke of holiness of heart and life, because hope was never meant to stay right here in our heads. It had to get out. It had to get out through our hands and our feet. You see, hope was meant to move. Hope has feet, and hope has hands, and hope cooks a casserole, and hope writes a card, and hope forgives, and hope holds on. And hope, well, it keeps our heart awake. Holy waiting prepares us for holy acting. And holy acting deepens our holy waiting. You see, one breathes into the other. And so you might be wondering, what does faithful waiting look like for us right now in our worlds? How do we carry this into Advent, into our homes, into our workplaces, and into our neighborhoods? Where does this kind of waiting need to happen in each one of our lives? It might mean praying every day for peace, even when peace feels so far away. Again, it might mean holding on to kindness even when you know that it's difficult. And it might be choosing truth over convenience, or love over fear, or community over isolation. And it might mean living out hope even when you do not feel it. But all of these things, that's what makes it holy. I just want to take a brief moment here and recognize that if I'm being honest, and if we're all being honest with ourselves, for some of us, hope feels incredibly heavy this year. You see, we are carrying losses that we did not expect. We have been betrayed in ways that blindsided us. There are empty chairs at the table. relationships are strained. And there are prayers that we have prayed for so long that our voices feel tired. The grief is real, and it is fresh, and you just can't push it away. And it often feels like a companion that we did not invite. And the anxiety, let me tell you, the anxiety is so real that it really hums underneath the surface like an electricity that shocks you every once in a while. There's no switch to just get over it, trust me. And so for some, lighting a candle may feel like just such a small thing. A fragile little flicker against so much darkness. But that flicker is so important. That little light on the tree is so incredibly bright to somebody who is living in darkness. And it is important to know why this matters. Because every light, no matter how big or small it is, pushes back against the darkness. Every act of hope is a testimony that despair does not get the final word. And every moment of faithful waiting is a seed that is planted in the dark soil of God's coming kingdom. You see, hope doesn't always shout because so often it is only heard in a gentle whisper. And sometimes it's the hand that you extend to a neighbor when they call you in tears, telling you that they have not felt the movement of their baby at 24 weeks in too long and ask you to take them to the hospital. And sometimes it's the breath that you draw that you didn't think that you could, and it's the act of lighting one little tiny candle. We don't light these candles because the world is already healed. We light them because God is not finished, and we believe healing has begun. We don't sing because the night is over. We sing because a new dawn is already breaking, even if we can't yet see the edge of the morning sun rays. Hope is on the way. And so on this first Sunday of Advent, as we have lit this beautiful candle of hope, I encourage us all to remember this, that you are not alone in your waiting. You are not alone in your longing. You are not forgotten, unseen, or unheard. God is not distant. God is near. And more than that, God is moving. Even when we cannot feel it, and even when we cannot name it, even when all we have is the trembling flame within our own little world that is blown by the wind, God is already working behind the scenes of our lives, stitching pieces together, opening doors that you cannot see, and softening hearts and healing wounds. Christ has come, Christ will come again, and Christ is here now in the waiting. So do not fall asleep. Don't let the night lull you into numbness, and don't give up on the prayers that you have prayed 1,000 times. But more importantly, do not close your heart and your mind to the awe and wonder. Hope is faithful living, right in the middle of faithful waiting. Hope is on the way. Thanks be to God.